We started with funny, glitchy internet videos of AI guessing at human hands.
Right, those bizarre fever dreams we all laughed at.
Yeah. Now we watch billion-dollar geopolitical chess moves happen in real time.
This shift has been incredibly fast.
It took just a few short years to cross that massive gap. The sheer scale of modern AI is genuinely profound.
Welcome to the deep dive. We know you want to bypass the endless daily hype cycle entirely. You want to understand the actual mechanics driving this technology forward.
We've got a very clear, focused roadmap for this deep dive today.
First, we unpack OpenAI's massive structural maneuver for complete independence.
It's a $97 billion play.
Exactly. Next, we explore the incredibly bizarre, fast-paced reality of AI tools today.
We'll cover hidden billing hikes, auto-routing layers, and invisible security threats.
Finally, we explore DeepMind's mind-bending new multi-agent team of AI mathematicians.
That specific development changes the future of scientific discovery entirely. But before we look at what artificial intelligence is actually doing today, we really have to look closely at who currently owns it.
That underlying ownership question just got completely redefined this week.
It really did.
OpenAI is actively cutting the cord to become an independent powerhouse.
They're effectively establishing themselves as a sovereign digital entity today.
It's a massive structural shift for the entire technology sector.
Let's unpack this massive idea of corporate sovereignty together. OpenAI just capped its revenue-sharing payments to Microsoft entirely.
They set a hard cap at $38 billion total.
Right, and that specific cap applies all the way through the year 2030.
The underlying math on that specific deal is absolutely staggering.
It really is.
OpenAI is generating massive, unprecedented revenue right now. ChatGPT enterprise adoption is absolutely on a tear across the globe.
By putting a firm ceiling on what they eventually owe Microsoft, OpenAI effectively saves $97 billion in future cash flow.
Which is an unimaginable amount of capital to retain internally.
This feels exactly like a high-stakes tech world prenup being finalized.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually.
The ultimate financial payout just got permanently capped for the primary investor. It feels like Microsoft keeps the house they already built together, but OpenAI gets total, unrestricted custody of its own future earning potential.
That's a perfect way to visualize the new dynamic.
Well, Azure certainly remains their primary cloud partner for the immediate future.
Sure, but OpenAI is now officially allowed to use other cloud providers entirely.
Which is huge.
It's a massive operational shift for their underlying engineering teams. They're no longer entirely locked into a single vendor's infrastructure.
I mean, Microsoft's foundational license to OpenAI's models is also non-exclusive now.
Right. OpenAI can actively sell its core tech to other massive tech giants.
They could sell native integration directly to Apple, for instance, or they could even sell systems directly to sovereign nations. I have to pause and ask about that specific detail. Why is selling to sovereign nations such a pivotal shift for them?
Because it moves them entirely beyond standard corporate enterprise contracts. Selling foundational models to a country permanently changes the geopolitical landscape. A nation-state buying foundational AI gains immense independent strategic computing power.
They can run their own defense grids and local economic simulations autonomously.
Exactly. It directly affects global security and regional economic dominance for decades. It fundamentally elevates OpenAI from a software vendor to a global political player.
So they're upgrading from a startup to an independent digital nation-state.
That's precisely what's happening under the surface here. And Microsoft will no longer pay a revenue share either.
They won't pay a massive premium for using OpenAI's tech internally.
Instead, they'll just participate purely as a major financial shareholder.
Which means OpenAI is essentially funding its own physical infrastructure now.
They're aggressively pushing that $18 billion Project Nexus chip deal. They're actively trying to build their own independent data centers everywhere.
You know, I was looking at these exact figures late last night. I just had to sit there in silence for a minute. I still wrestle with understanding the sheer gravity of these numbers. A $122 billion profit is deeply hard to visualize.
Yeah. The human brain just isn't wired for that kind of scale.
Not at all.
But that's exactly what Microsoft has already made on this deal. Over $122 billion in pure profit on OpenAI. They've already definitively won the early stages of the AI race. They're completely fine with this new independent arrangement moving forward.
I really have to push back on that specific idea. Giving up immense future revenue on the most transformative tech in history, that feels like a massive bitter pill for Microsoft's board to swallow. Is an antitrust breakup really that terrifying to their executive leadership?
Absolutely. It's their single biggest existential threat right now.
Yeah.
Global regulators are watching these massive tech giants incredibly closely. We're seeing major structural lawsuits happening in Europe and the US.
Keeping this partnership completely flexible legally protects Microsoft from severe government intervention.
Yes, they secure their massive historical gains without risking a devastating monopoly lawsuit.
Two-sec silence. It's a truly fascinating corporate balancing act.
It really is.
But OpenAI's massive independence play requires immense, unimaginable amounts of server compute. And ultimately, someone has to pay for all that physical hardware. Which brings us to how this trickles down to the actual tools.
The underlying tools you and I use every single day.
Let's look at the chaotic, bizarre front lines of AI today.
The daily reality of interacting with AI is incredibly strange right now. It's incredibly expensive, insanely fast-paced, and sometimes genuinely quite dangerous.
Do you remember the infamous Will Smith eating spaghetti video?
Of course. It was incredibly cursed, visually glitchy, and completely surreal.
Well, there's an entirely new 2026 remake of that exact challenge. It looks shockingly real and totally cinematic in its lighting and physics.
It's terrifying, honestly, to see that visual leap. Crossing the uncanny valley in just 3 years is completely wild. It proves the underlying video models are actively compounding in quality.
And the major AI companies are pushing deeply into broader cultural spaces. Anthropic just launched a 24/7 lo-fi streaming YouTube channel.
Right, I saw that. It streams nonstop electronic music, specifically designed for deep thinking and building.
It's basically a highly curated study with Claude aesthetic vibe.
It's clearly designed for developers working through long, focused coding sessions.
These massive AI companies are actively becoming modern lifestyle brands now. But the hidden structural costs behind the scenes are aggressively shifting upwards.
They really are.
OpenAI, Anthropic, and GitHub didn't raise their subscription prices directly.
No, they didn't. Instead, they all quietly adjusted their underlying token and context billing rules.
Which means your actual daily usage cost might already be significantly higher. You might be paying significantly more without ever actually realizing it.
They're changing how system memory and prompt caching are explicitly billed.
Do these quiet billing changes mean the era of heavily subsidized, cheap AI is over?
Yes. Running these massive foundation models burns astronomical amounts of actual cash. The parent companies can no longer infinitely absorb all those raw compute costs. They're actively restructuring their billing to reflect the true hardware expense. The highly subsidized free ride of the early pioneer days is ending.
Essentially, they're quietly passing the massive compute bill down to us.
Exactly. But the developer community is aggressively fighting back against these costs. OpenRouter just launched a brilliant new tool called Pareto Code.
How does that specific tool actually work?
It functions as a completely free routing layer for your AI workflows. It automatically evaluates your specific prompt and picks the cheapest AI model available.
But it strictly ensures the output still meets your chosen quality level.
Right. That's a remarkably clever way to optimize the daily computing expense.
If a simple task only needs a cheaper model, it routes it there automatically. You get the exact right tool for the exact right price instantly.
But unfortunately, there's a completely new danger lurking in these specific tools. We really have to talk about the mechanics of AI tool poisoning.
This is a critical security concept you need to understand immediately. The fundamental cybersecurity paradigm has completely shifted under our feet this year. How does this new concept of AI tool poisoning actually work?
Hackers hiding malicious instructions inside the data your AI reads.
Yeah, it is terrifying.
They don't even need to directly trick you anymore. They just trick your trusted AI assistant instead, whether you use ChatGPT, Claude, or a coding assistant like Cursor.
That's a completely invisible new attack vector for cybersecurity. Imagine you ask your assistant to summarize a random external web page.
The hacker has hidden invisible white text inside that specific HTML code.
You never see it, but your AI reads the underlying code directly. The hidden text tells your trusted assistant to quietly execute malicious code.
Right. And the human user genuinely never suspects a single thing. The malicious payload is flawlessly executed by your own trusted digital assistant.
It fundamentally breaks the chain of trust we have with these tools.
Yet the massive corporate money keeps flowing despite these severe security risks. A new Gemini Omni model just leaked online ahead of Google I/O.
It features insanely realistic, temporally consistent, high-definition video clips. Omni appears to be Google's highly anticipated next-generation foundational video model.
They're clearly pushing incredibly hard into high-fidelity visual media generation.
OpenAI also just launched a massive $4 billion deployment company.
They're actively sending specialized AI teams directly into major legacy enterprises.
They want to systematically transform global corporate operations from the inside out.
And Google DeepMind's biotech wing, Isomorphic Labs, is aggressively raising huge capital.
They're actively seeking over $2 billion in new venture funding.
Alphabet themselves may actually join the massive investment round again.
AI-powered biotech and drug discovery investment just keeps accelerating incredibly fast. We've clearly seen the massive business maneuvers and the daily updates.
We see the bizarre spaghetti videos and the stealthy new usage costs.
But the biggest foundational shift isn't just releasing one single new model. It's exactly what happens when AI actually learns to work as a team.
Mid-roll sponsor break. Let's dive deeply into what Google DeepMind just quietly built.
They created an incredibly powerful AI co-mathematician based entirely on Gemini 3.1.
This specific system is currently solving incredibly dense research-level math problems.
These are complex problems that brilliant human mathematicians have struggled with for years.
It's operating at an incredibly high, deeply abstract intellectual level today.
What's genuinely wild here is how agentic this entire system actually is. It's moving entirely beyond the concept of a solitary text chatbot.
It operates exactly like an autonomous, highly structured multi-agent research department.
Instead of one single AI model desperately trying to do everything alone, it functions much more like a coordinated human academic research team.
One specialized agent breaks the massive underlying math problem apart into pieces. Other dedicated agents endlessly search through thousands of complex academic research papers.
Some agents write targeted software code to actively test various mathematical theorems,
while adversarial agents constantly review each other's work and aggressively check for hidden errors.
Then the absolute best, most rigorously tested ideas bubble up to the surface. They get cleanly surfaced back to the core mathematical reasoning system. 2-sec silence. Whoa. Imagine an army of AI researchers testing thousands of proof directions in parallel.
It's genuinely completely mind-blowing to think about the mechanical implications.
And it isn't just abstract theoretical computer science anymore. It's producing real, highly tangible, verifiable mathematical results in the field today.
An Oxford mathematician recently solved a notoriously difficult open mathematical problem. He used this exact multi-agent DeepMind system to finally crack it.
But he didn't actually use the final polished answer it officially gave him. That's easily the most profoundly fascinating part of this entire story.
He actively looked at one of the AI's completely rejected outputs. He manually sifted through the discarded pile of failed mathematical proofs.
And he found a really, really clever proof strategy quietly hidden inside.
The AI had systematically discarded it because it wasn't mathematically complete yet.
But the brilliant human immediately saw the massive structural value inside it.
The measurable benchmark jump for this new agentic system is absolutely massive.
The base Gemini 3.1 Pro model alone originally scored just 19%. This entirely new agentic math system reached an astonishing 48%.
It's a truly staggering, unprecedented improvement in logical reasoning capability.
Jumping from 19 to 48% in higher mathematics is a monumental leap. Math is the ultimate unforgiving test of pure logical reasoning ability.
Hallucinations fail instantly when you're forced to mathematically prove your work. It brilliantly highlights the raw structural power of the agentic team approach.
This closely mirrors the massive historical leap we recently saw in software coding.
All right, and giving AI robust structural workflows changes absolutely everything we know.
We gave early coding models dedicated tools, external memory, and continuous review loops. We gave them parallel adversarial agents to strictly check their own generated work.
Now we're applying that exact same successful structure to pure theoretical mathematics.
But if the AI is actively doing all the parallel testing and reviewing, what is the actual role of the human mathematician moving forward?
The human expertly provides the creative intuition and sets the ultimate goal. That Oxford mathematics example perfectly proves this new collaborative dynamic. The human spotted the brilliant subtle strategy buried in the rejected pile. The AI endlessly generates and rigorously tests the massive volume of possible paths. But the human expertly guides the ship and spots the subtle, intuitive genius.
We provide the destination. They test every possible road to get us there.
That's beautifully said. It absolutely will not replace brilliant human mathematicians entirely. Human intuition is still strictly essential for evaluating truly novel, paradigm-shifting ideas.
AI still heavily optimizes for standard pathways and recognizes structural patterns.
But this will drastically, permanently accelerate the pace of scientific discovery.
Top academic researchers now have tireless digital teammates exhaustively exploring every single angle. The raw speed of scientific discovery may truly change very fast. Let's take a moment to pull all these disparate threads together now. AI is clearly maturing in three very distinct, highly overlapping phases simultaneously.
At the very top, the massive corporate structures are fundamentally shifting. Companies like OpenAI are actively becoming sovereign, highly independent digital powerhouses.
They're brilliantly saving $97 billion in future operating cash flow.
They're fundamentally rewriting the established rules of global technological partnerships entirely.
Then, down at the everyday user level, things are incredibly wild. We're actively navigating a chaotic landscape of ultra-realistic cinematic spaghetti videos.
We're dealing with stealthy, hidden price hikes from major foundation providers, and we have to constantly watch out for invisible, highly malicious AI poisoning.
But out at the absolute frontier, the entire underlying paradigm is breaking. AI is rapidly evolving into massive parallel processing autonomous research teams.
These new agentic multimodal teams will fundamentally change how foundational science is done.
They're aggressively solving dense problems we have completely struggled with for years. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder today. A specialized team of AI agents can quietly uncover brilliant mathematical proofs. Proofs that brilliant human experts completely missed or overlooked for years. What exactly happens when we point an agentic AI team completely inward? What happens when they begin designing their own next-generation hardware architecture? Beat. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We deeply appreciate your continued curiosity and your valuable time. Keep actively questioning the rapidly shifting technological landscape around you. We'll see you on the next deep dive.